The transport shuttle docked with Harmony Prime at exactly 800 hours. Corporal Lee grabbed his gear bag and followed the other passengers through the airlock. The space station was massive, bigger than anything he had seen before. It floated in neutral space, a place where aliens from across the galaxy came to talk business and make deals. Was 28 years old and had been a security officer for 6 years. He was good at his job, never caused trouble, and always followed orders. That was why they picked him for this assignment. The Empire was sending their queen to the station, and they needed human guards to show that both species could work together. He reported to Captain Park in the security office. She was a stern woman in her 40s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She looked him up and down and nodded once. "You'll be posted outside the delegation quarters," she said. "This is the most important assignment of your career. The Queen has been alive for thousands of years. Show respect. Don't speak unless spoken to, and for the love of Earth, don't start any diplomatic incidents." "Yes, ma'am," said. "They are different from us," continued. "Their skin is like crystal and changes color based on their emotions. Purple means confusion, red means anger, gold is happiness, white is grief. Learn these colors, read them. They'll tell you more than words ever will." Memorized every detail. An hour later, he stood at his post outside the guest quarters. The corridor was quiet and cold. He wore his formal uniform with the blue stripe that marked him as diplomatic security. His plasma pistol sat heavy on his hip, though he hoped he would never need to draw it. The delegation arrived 2 hours later, heard them before he saw them. Their footsteps made a strange clicking sound on the metal floor. Then they came around the corner and he forgot to breathe. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Their bodies were humanoid but covered in crystalline skin that caught the light and threw it back in rainbow patterns. They moved with perfect grace, like dancers or predators. Their eyes were large and multifaceted like gems. But what struck most was their reaction to him. The moment the first guard saw him, the alien stopped walking. His skin flashed from blue to purple to gold in rapid succession. The other guards noticed too. They all stared at with expressions he could not read. "Is something wrong?" asked, his hand instinctively moving closer to his weapon. The lead guard, whose nameplate read in both alien script and English, tilted her head. "No," she said in perfect English, though her voice had a musical quality. "Nothing is wrong. Please excuse our surprise. We were not expecting. That is, you remind us of someone." Before could ask what that meant, she moved past him. The other guards followed, but they kept glancing back at him. Their skin colors shifted constantly, a mix of purple confusion and gold excitement. Stood at attention and tried to ignore the strange feeling in his gut. The next morning, the formal negotiations began. Took his position in the council chamber, standing against the wall with the other security personnel. The room was designed to accommodate dozens of different species. Some sat on chairs, others on cushions, and some floated in containment fields. The delegation entered last. There were 12 of them, all wearing flowing robes made of some material that looked like liquid metal. But it was the figure in the center who commanded every eye in the room. Queen was breathtaking. She stood 7 feet tall, and her crystalline skin was pale blue that seemed to glow from within. She wore a crown that looked like frozen lightning. Her eyes were ancient and sad and wise all at once. Guessed she had seen civilizations rise and fall, had witnessed the birth of stars and the death of worlds. She walked into the chamber with perfect poise. Her gaze swept across the assembled diplomats. Then her eyes landed on. She stopped walking. Her skin flashed pure white, the color of grief. Her hand reached out and gripped the doorframe so hard that her fingers left small cracks in the metal. The entire room went silent. Every diplomat, every guard, every translator froze. A rush to the Queen's side. "Your Majesty," she whispered urgently. Stared at, her lips parted. She looked like she had seen a ghost. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the queen seemed to gather herself. The white faded from her skin, replaced by the calm blue. She straightened her posture and released the doorframe. "Forgive me," she said, and her voice was like music and thunder combined. "A moment of dizziness. It has passed." She walked to her seat and the negotiations began. But throughout the entire session, felt her eyes on him. Every time he glanced in her direction, she was watching him. Her skin would flicker white for just a second before returning to blue. She barely paid attention to the talks about trade routes and resource sharing. Her focus was entirely on the human guard standing against the wall. Captain noticed too. After the session ended and the delegates filed out, she pulled aside. "What did you do?" she demanded. "Nothing, I just stood there." The queen of the empire, a being who has ruled for 8,000 years, nearly collapsed when she saw you. That's not nothing. "I don't know what happened," insisted. "I've never met her before. I've never even met her before today." Rubbed her temples. "This could be a disaster or an opportunity. I can't tell which yet." That evening, as prepared to end his shift, approached him. The advisor's skin was a steady purple. "Corporal Lee," she said formally, "Her Majesty Queen requests your presence in her private quarters, immediately." His heart jumped. "Is that allowed? Protocol says." "The Queen makes the protocol," I interrupted. "Will you come, or must I report that you refused a royal summons?" Looked at the other guards. They pretended not to listen, but he knew they heard everything. He thought about calling Captain, but something in A's expression told him this was not a request he could delay. "Lead the way," he said. As he followed the advisor through the winding corridors, wondered what could possibly be so important. What could an 8,000-year-old alien queen want with a simple human guard? And why had she looked at him like her heart was breaking? He was about to find out. The queen's quarters were unlike anything had seen. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Strange plants grew in containers, their leaves shimmering with colors that did not exist in nature. The air smelled like rain and electricity. I stopped at a doorway and gestured for him to enter. "The queen is waiting," she said. Then she turned and left him alone. Stepped through the door. The room beyond was large and filled with soft blue light. A massive viewing port dominated one wall, showing the stars beyond the station. Queen stood by the window, her back to him. Her crystalline skin reflected the starlight, making her glow like a constellation. "Your Majesty," said, unsure if he should bow or salute or stand at attention. "Sit, please," she said without turning around. Her voice was quieter than it had been in the council chamber, more human somehow. "I know this is strange. I know it breaks every rule of protocol, but I needed to see you up close. I needed to be sure." "Sure of what?" asked. She finally turned to face him. Her skin had shifted to a deep blue, the color of sadness. "Do you know anything about history, Corporal?" "Only what they taught us in basic training. Your empire is 50,000 years old. You're one of the most advanced species in the galaxy." "We are old," she agreed. "So old that sometimes our history becomes myth even to ourselves. But I remember things that happened before your species discovered fire. I remember the first time I saw a star die. I remember wars that lasted 1,000 years." She paused. "And I remember falling in love with a human 300 years ago." Stared at her. "That's impossible. Humans only made contact with aliens 60 years ago." "Official contact, yes," said. She moved to a chair and gestured for him to sit across from her. "But your world has been visited before, many times, usually just scouts, observers, sometimes accidents." She smiled, and the expression was heartbreaking. "I was an accident." She told him the story. 300 years ago, she had been younger, more impulsive. She had taken a small ship on a diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim. There was a malfunction. The ship crashed on a primitive world that the Galactic Council had marked as off-limits. That world was Earth. Her ship came down in mountains covered with snow and forests. She was badly injured, her communication systems destroyed. She managed to crawl away from the wreckage before the ship's self-destruct protocol activated. Then she collapsed in the snow, certain she would die. A human found her, a young man who had been hunting in the mountains. He was in his early 30s, strong and kind. His name was. He should have been terrified, said. I was alien, injured, clearly not human, but just looked at me with these gentle eyes and said something in his language. I did not understand the words, but I understood the meaning. He would help me. Carried her to his home, a small house in a village nestled in the mountains. He hid her in a storage building behind his house. For weeks, he brought her food and water. He tended her wounds. He used old remedies and herbal medicine that somehow worked on her crystalline biology. As she healed, she worked on repairing her emergency beacon using materials helped her gather. She learned his language. He learned to read the colors of her skin. They spent hours together, talking about their worlds, their dreams, their fears. I fell in love with him, said simply. It should not have been possible. Our species are so different. I would live for thousands of years while he would be gone in a handful of decades. But love does not care about logic. Loved her too. He called her his sky goddess. They had 2 years together while she secretly worked on her beacon. 2 years of stolen moments, of learning to understand each other despite everything that separated them. Then the beacon worked. A rescue ship detected the signal and came for her, faced an impossible choice. She could stay on Earth with giving up her position, her responsibilities, everything she had built over thousands of years, or she could go back to her empire and leave him behind. I chose duty, she said, and her skin turned nearly white. I told myself I would return for him. I would petition the council to allow contact with Earth. I would bring him to my world or find a way to extend his life. I promised him I would come back. But galactic politics moved slowly. It took decades to arrange the proper committees, to debate Earth's readiness for contact, to navigate the complex laws governing primitive worlds. By the time had the authority to return to Earth, she learned that had passed away. He lived a good life, she said quietly. He married. He had children, and before he died, he wrote a journal about me. His descendants kept it as a family story, a legend about an ancestor who met a woman from the stars. Tears ran down her crystalline face, hardening into small diamonds before they hit the floor. Watched them fall, feeling a strange ache in his chest. And then 300 years later I walk into a council chamber and see you, continued. You have his face. Not exactly the same, but so close it hurts to look at you. You move like him. You carry yourself the same way. Even the expression in your eyes when you watch the room looking for threats, ready to protect others, that was. Did not know what to say. His mouth felt dry. My family name is Lee, but my mother's maiden name was. My grandmother used to tell stories about an ancestor who met a goddess from the sky. I always thought they were just fairy tales. Made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Your ancestor, you are his blood. The universe has a sense of irony, bringing you to me after all these centuries. I don't know what you want me to say, admitted. I do not want you to say anything, she replied. I just needed you to know why I reacted as I did. You deserve to understand. She stood up, her composure returning. You may go, Corporal. Thank you for listening to an old creature's sad story. Stood, but he did not move toward the door. Something made him hesitate. He really loved you, didn't he? Yes, whispered. And I loved him. I still do, even though he has been dust for centuries. Then he was lucky, said. To be loved like that, even for just 2 years, that's more than most people ever get. Looked at him with those ancient eyes, and her skin shifted to a warm gold for just a moment. You even think like him, she said. Now please go, before I forget that I am a queen and you are just a guard. Bowed and left. As he walked back to his quarters, his mind spun with everything he had learned. He thought about his ancestor, about a man who had loved an alien and kept that secret his entire life. He thought about the Queen, carrying grief for 300 years. And he wondered why fate had brought them together again, across centuries and stars, when nothing good could possibly come from it. The next 3 days were tense. The negotiations were not going well. The coalition of free worlds wanted access to technology. The wanted exclusive mining rights in coalition territory. Neither side would compromise. Tempers grew short. Arguments broke out in the council chambers. Kept his post, watching everything with careful eyes. He noticed small things. The way certain delegates whispered in corners, the suspicious glances, the tension that had nothing to do with trade agreements. Captain noticed too. She increased security patrols and ran background checks on all station personnel. But Harmony Prime hosted thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds. Finding threats was like searching for a specific grain of sand on a beach. Queen attended every session but felt her watching him. Sometimes their eyes met across the room. Her skin would flicker white for just a second before she looked away. He tried not to think about their conversation. He tried to focus on his job. On the fourth day, the station hosted a reception. It was meant to ease tensions, to give the diplomats a chance to socialize informally. The grand ballroom was decorated with art and music from a dozen worlds. Aliens of every shape and size mingled, drinking exotic beverages and making small talk. Was part of the security detail. He stood near the entrance with 3 other guards, watching the crowd. His instincts told him something was wrong, but he could not identify what. Queen entered the ballroom. She wore a gown made of material that looked like frozen starlight. Every head turned to watch her. She moved through the crowd with grace, speaking briefly with various ambassadors and dignitaries. That was when saw it. A server carrying a tray of drinks moved toward the Queen, but the server's movements were wrong, too purposeful, too focused. Had seen that kind of movement before in combat training. It was the walk of someone about to attack. "Contact server at 3 o'clock, shouted into his communicator. He pushed through the crowd, drawing his plasma pistol. The server dropped the tray and pulled a weapon from under the serving cloth. It was a shatter rifle, designed specifically to destroy crystalline biology. 3 more attackers appeared from different points in the room, all armed with similar weapons. Everything happened fast. The room exploded into chaos. Aliens screamed and ran. The attackers opened fire. One blast hit a diplomat and the alien shattered into 1,000 pieces. Another blast took out a section of wall. Ran toward Queen. She stood frozen, her guards forming a protective circle around her. But there were too many attackers. One of them had a clear shot. Threw himself between the Queen and the plasma blast. The energy hit his shoulder armor and pain exploded through his body. The armor held, but cracks spiderwebbed across its surface. He felt something break inside his shoulder. His right arm went numb. But he kept moving. He fired his pistol with his left hand, hitting one attacker in the chest. The alien went down, tackled another assassin, using his body weight to drive the attacker to the ground. His training took over. Block, strike, disable. His injured arm hung useless, but he fought with everything he had. The other security forces were responding now. Plasma fire lit up the ballroom. 2 more attackers fell. But the last one, the original server, was close to the Queen. Too close. The assassin raised their weapon. Moved without thinking. He pushed through the guards and grabbed the assassin's arm, redirecting the shot into the ceiling. The attacker snarled and pulled a blade from their belt. The blade was made of some black metal that seemed to drink in light. The assassin stabbed at Queen, blocked with his body. The blade punched through his armor, through his ribs, and into his lung. Cold fire spread through his chest. He grabbed the assassin's wrist and twisted hard. Bone broke. The attacker screamed and dropped the blade. Head butted them, and the assassin collapsed unconscious. Then's legs gave out. He fell to his knees. Blood poured from the wound in his chest. His vision blurred. He heard shouting, but it sounded far away. Someone was screaming, a high crystalline sound full of rage and grief. Strong arms caught him before he hit the ground. He looked up and saw Queen. Her skin had turned completely red, a color so bright it hurt to look at. Red was anger, red was fury, but mixed with it were flashes of white, grief, loss. "No," she said, and her voice broke. "No, not again. I will not lose you again." "Your Majesty," I said urgently, "let the guards carry him to medical. You should not." "Be silent," commanded. Her eyes were wild. "I carried when he was injured. I will carry this one too." She lifted like he weighed nothing. Her crystalline arms were stronger than they looked. She ran from the ballroom, moving faster than any human could. The world bounced and swayed around. He tried to speak, to tell her he was fine, but blood filled his mouth. The medical bay was chaos. Doctors and nurses rushed to prepare for the wounded. When burst through the doors carrying a bleeding human, everyone froze. "Save him," she commanded, laying on a table. "Save him or I will reduce this station to atoms." The head doctor, a calm alien with 4 arms and gray skin, nodded. "We will do our best, Your Majesty, but you must step back. Let us work." Did not move. Her skin flashed between red and white. Colors had never seen her display at the same time. Tears fell from her eyes, crystalline diamonds that scattered across the floor. "I cannot lose him," she whispered. "Not again. The universe cannot be so cruel." Wanted to tell her it was okay, that he was just a guard doing his job, that she should not cry for him, but darkness was pulling at him and he was so tired. His eyes closed. The last thing he heard was her voice, ancient and broken, calling a name that was not his. She said, "Please do not leave me again." Then there was nothing but silence and dark. 3 days later woke up. His chest hurt, his shoulder hurt, everything hurt, but he was alive. He was in a hospital room. Machines beeped softly around him. Tubes ran from his arms. When he turned his head, he saw Queen sitting in a chair beside his bed. Her skin was blue, the color of sadness. She looked tired, like she had not slept in days. "You are awake," she said softly. "How long?" His voice was rough. 3 days. The blade collapsed your lung and cracked 3 ribs. The doctors repaired the damage, but you will need time to heal." The assassins. All dead or captured. They were part of a group called the Purity Front. They believe humans are a threat to alien civilizations. They wanted to kill me and blame it on human guards. Her skin flickered red for a moment. They failed. Tried to sit up, but pain stopped him. "You should not be here. People will talk." "Let them talk," said. "You saved my life. You threw yourself between me and death without hesitation. Why?" "It is my job." "It is more than that," she insisted. "You could have stayed back, let my guards handle it, but you ran toward danger, just like he would have." Looked at her sad, ancient eyes. "Maybe I carry more than just his blood," he said quietly. Spent 3 weeks recovering in the medical bay. Every single day, Queen visited him. She would sit beside his bed and they would talk for hours. Sometimes they discussed simple things like food or music. Other times they shared deeper thoughts about duty, loss, and what it meant to live with purpose. The rest of the galaxy noticed. News drones captured images of the Queen entering the medical bay. Reporters from 100 worlds wrote stories about the alien monarch who had fallen for a human guard. Some articles were romantic, others were scandalous, many were cruel. Captain came to see him on the 10th day. She looked exhausted and angry. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she demanded. "Saved the Queen's life. Besides that," paced back and forth. "Half the galaxy thinks you're a manipulator who seduced an alien queen for political advantage. The other half thinks you're proof that humans are too emotional and reckless for galactic politics. The nobles are calling for to abdicate. Our own government is worried about the alliance falling apart." Stared at the ceiling. "I was just doing my job." Your job was to stand guard, not to become part of an interstellar drama. Sighed and sat down. I'm not angry at you. You did what you thought was right, but this situation is bigger than both of us now. The Queen has been visiting you every day. People are talking about a bond between you two. There is no bond, said, though the words felt like a lie. Then tell her that. Tell her to stop visiting. Tell her you're just a guard who did his duty and nothing more. Stood up. Because if you don't, this could destroy everything we've built with the... After she left, lay in bed thinking. He knew was right. His connection with was causing problems. The smart thing would be to end it before it went any further. But every time he thought about telling her to stop visiting, his chest ached worse than his injuries. That evening arrived as usual, but she was not alone. A followed her, carrying a data pad and looking worried. We need to talk, said. Her skin was dark blue, almost purple, sadness mixed with confusion. About what? Asked, though he already knew. Sat down heavily. The High Council on my has called a vote of no confidence. My nobles believe I am unfit to rule because of my attachment to you. They say I have abandoned my duties. They say I am dishonoring our empire by showing favoritism to humans. They might be right, said quietly. Skin flashed red. Do not say that. You've been coming here every day, neglecting your responsibilities, all for a human guard you barely know. Your people see weakness. I see strength, said fiercely. I see someone willing to die for a stranger. I see courage and kindness and everything good about your species. Is it wrong to value that? A cleared her throat. Your Majesty, the Council demands you return home immediately. You must address these accusations or risk losing your throne. You have ruled for 8,000 years. Please do not throw that away for... She glanced at, for this. Stood and walked to the window. I have two choices, she said. I can return home, crush this rebellion, and secure my throne, but the political pressure will be enormous. I will likely never see again. The Council will forbid contact with him, will use it as proof that I have learned my lesson. Her voice cracked. Or I can abdicate. I can choose personal happiness over duty, but my empire will fall into chaos. My people will suffer. And the alliance with humanity that I worked so hard to build will crumble. Then the choice is obvious, said. You go home, you keep your throne. We end this before it gets worse. Turned to face him. Tears ran down her face, hardening into diamonds. Is that what you want? It does not matter what I want. I am just a guard. You are more than that. She crossed the room and grabbed his hand. The touch sent electricity through his body. You are the echo of the only man I ever loved. You are brave and good and kind. These past weeks talking with you have been the happiest I have felt in centuries, so I will ask again. Is that what you want? For me to leave and never return? Looked at their joined hands, her crystalline fingers wrapped around his human ones. It should have looked wrong, but it felt right. No, he admitted, but what I want does not change reality. You are a queen, I am nobody, this cannot work. Made a strange sound. Both of them looked at her. The advisor's skin was white with shock. What is it? Demanded. Your Majesty, your skin, it is bonding. Looked at where held his hand. Her crystalline skin had changed. Thin threads of golden light ran from her fingers to his, pulsing like a heartbeat. He could feel something in his chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with his injuries. Pulled her hand back quickly. The golden thread stretched and then faded, but the warmth in his chest remained. No, she whispered. No, that is impossible. What just happened? Asked. A look between them, her skin flickering through a dozen colors. Have the ability to form a soul bond with another being. It is rare, requiring deep emotional connection and physical contact at a moment of shared trauma. When you were wounded saving the queen, she carried you. Your blood touched her skin. The bond began forming then. Can it be stopped? Asked desperately. No, Your Majesty. The bond is already half formed. It will complete itself over time. Once complete, You will share emotions, thoughts, even. Breaking the bond would cause psychological damage to both of you. Felt dizzy, so we are connected now forever. Yes, I said. The Queen has bonded with a human. This has never happened before in our entire history. Sat down on the edge of his bed. She looked lost, more vulnerable than he had ever seen her. I am sorry, she whispered. I did not mean for this to happen. I never wanted to trap you. Took her hand again. The golden threads appeared immediately, stronger this time. Maybe we are both trapped, or maybe we are both free. I do not know, but I do know that I am tired of pretending this connection is not real. What are we going to do? Asked. Before could answer, Captain burst into the room. She looked panicked. Turn on the news, any channel now. I activated a holographic display. A news broadcast appeared, showing footage of the High Council was in session. One of the nobles, an ancient with dark purple skin, was speaking. Queen has betrayed our values, the noble declared. She dishonors our empire with her obsession with this human. She weakens us with her emotions. I call for an immediate vote. We must remove her from power before she destroys everything our ancestors built. The broadcast cut to another scene. It showed carrying through the medical bay doors, her skin flashing red and white, tears falling like diamonds. The angle made it look intimate, desperate, scandalous. They are using that moment against you, said, making it look like you abandoned your duties for a lover. Skin turned pure red. They dare. They dare because they think you are weak, said. He pulled himself into a sitting position, ignoring the pain. But they are wrong. You are not weak. You are just thinking like a when you need to think like a human. Everyone stared at him. What do you mean? Asked. Smiled despite the pain. We humans, we are good at finding the third option. Looked at the three women staring at him and felt strangely calm. His whole life, he had been a soldier, following orders and doing his duty. But now, lying in a hospital bed with a soul bond connecting him to an alien queen, he realized that sometimes the best solution was the one nobody had considered. You are thinking in absolutes, he said. Either you keep your throne and lose me, or you choose me and lose your throne. But humans do not think that way. We break rules. We rewrite systems that seem impossible to change. What are you suggesting? Asked. I am suggesting you go home and face your council, but not to apologize, not to hide our connection. You face them with the truth, and you make them see it as a strength instead of a weakness. I shook her head. The council will never accept a human consort. It goes against every tradition. Then change tradition, said simply. Your Majesty, you have ruled for 8,000 years. You have seen empires rise and fall. You have survived wars and plagues and political coups. Do you really think a handful of nobles can force you from your throne if you refuse to go? Skin flickered from blue to gold to red, cycling through emotions. What you suggest is radical. It could split my empire. Or it could save it, Captain said. Everyone turned to look at her. She shrugged. I came here to end this mess, but maybe he is right. Maybe running and hiding is the wrong move. Humanity needs allies. The empire needs to evolve or it will become irrelevant. What better way to show that than through you two? The political fallout would be enormous, I warned. Then we manage it, said. She pulled up a chair, her military mind already working. Here is what we do. First, we control the narrative. Stop letting your enemies define this story. The assassination attempt proves there are forces trying to destabilize both our peoples. The fact that a human guard sacrificed himself for a queen shows the strength of our alliance. Nodded slowly, go on. Second, we make the soul bond public, not as a scandal but as an unprecedented bridge between species. You cannot help what happened. It is biology, fate, whatever you want to call it, but you can choose how to respond to it. Added, and third, I resigned from the military. I cannot be a simple guard anymore, but I can be something else. A consort, a diplomat, a symbol that humans and can build a future together. You would give up your career, your life on Earth, asked. I would be giving up one life to start another, said. That is what humans do. We adapt, we change. That is our greatest strength. Over the next week, they planned. Captain worked with Earth's diplomatic corps to frame the situation. A contacted loyal members of the High Council, preparing them for what was coming. Reviewed ancient law, finding precedents that could support her position. And recovered, growing stronger each day. The golden threads connecting him to grew brighter. He began to feel her emotions as echoes in his own mind. When she was stressed, he felt tension. When she was happy, warmth bloomed in his chest. The bond was completing itself. 2 weeks after the assassination attempt, they traveled to the war formal armor that combined human military tradition with aesthetics. The armor was white with blue accents, and across the chest was the symbol of both Earth and the Empire intertwined. The High Council chamber was enormous, carved from a single massive crystal that refracted light into rainbows. Hundreds of nobles filled the seats, their skin colors shifting as they murmured to each other. At the center stood a platform where the queen would address them. Walk to the platform with beside her. The nobles fell silent. Some of their skin flashed red with anger, others showed purple confusion, a few displayed white grief. Members of the High Council, began, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. I stand before you accused of weakness, of dishonoring our empire, of choosing personal desire over duty. She paused. These accusations are false. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The purple-skinned noble who had called for her removal stood. You have spent weeks at the side of a human guard while your empire suffered. How is that not weakness? I spent weeks ensuring that the being who saved my life survived, corrected. Let me tell you a story. 300 years ago, I crashed on a primitive world. A human found me dying in the snow and saved me. He showed me kindness when he could have shown fear. He taught me that strength is not just power or tradition. It is compassion. It is courage. It is the willingness to help someone even when you gain nothing from it. She gestured too. This human, Corporal Lee, threw himself between me and death. He did not know me. He gained nothing from his sacrifice. But he did it anyway because that is what humans do. They protect the weak. They fight for strangers. They adapt to impossible situations and find solutions where others see only problems. Another noble stood. But you have bonded with him, a soul bond with an alien. This is unprecedented. Yes, agreed. It is unprecedented, and that is exactly why it matters. For 50,000 years, our empire has been static. We have held to our traditions, our purity, our isolation. And what has it brought us? Stagnation. We are powerful, but we are not growing. We are old, but we are not wise. Her skin shifted to bright gold. This bond was not planned, but it happened because at a moment of crisis, I cared more about saving a brave soul than about what others would think. That is not weakness. That is what leadership requires. She raised her hand, and the golden threads connecting her became visible to everyone in the chamber. Light pulsed between them like a heartbeat. We are bound now. This human and I breaking the bond would destroy us both. But more importantly, I do not want to break it. I have lived for 8,000 years. I have ruled with wisdom and strength. And I am telling you now that this bond, this connection with humanity, is the future of our empire. The purple-skinned noble sneered. You would have us believe that your personal attachment serves the empire. I invoke the right of proving, declared. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The right of proving was ancient law, rarely used. It allowed a ruler to prove their legitimacy through trial by the oracle stone, an artifact that could read truth and measure conviction. The purple noble smiled. You would risk your throne on the oracle stone. Very well, let us see what truth it reveals. They brought forth the oracle stone. It was a massive crystal sphere that floated in the center of the chamber, pulsing with inner light, and approached it together. They placed their hands on its surface. The stone flared with light. felt it reach into his mind, his heart, his very soul. It examined him, tested him, weighed his intentions. Beside him, gasped as the stone did the same to her. Then something incredible happened. The stone erupted in colors that had never been seen before. Golden human warmth mixed with crystalline light. The two energies swirled together, separate but intertwined, creating something entirely new. Images appeared in the crystal. The council saw a vision of the future. They saw humans and working together. They saw hybrid technologies that combined both species' strengths. They saw a threat coming from deep space, something that neither species could face alone. But together, as allies, as friends, as family, they could survive. The vision faded. The Oracle Stone's verdict was clear. The bond was not corruption. It was evolution. It was proof that the galaxy was changing, and those who adapted would thrive while those who clung to purity would fall. The purple noble stared at the stone in disbelief. Around the chamber, the other noble's skin shifted to gold, accepting the truth. "The oracle has spoken," said. "I remain your queen, and will be my consort. Together we will lead our empire into a new age, an age of cooperation, an age of strength through unity." The council voted. Not all of them were happy, but none could deny the Oracle Stone's judgment, kept her throne, became the first human consort to an alien monarch. 6 months later, they stood in the mountains of Korea. Snow covered the peaks. The air was cold and clean. Wore simple clothes instead of her royal robes, wore a jacket and boots. They placed a memorial stone in the ground. It was carved with words in both Korean and script. "Here, showed kindness to a stranger from the stars. His compassion changed the galaxy." "Do you think he would approve?" asked, "of what we are doing?" "I think he would be proud," said. He took her hand and the golden threads pulsed warmly. "He loved you. He would want you to be happy." "I am happy," said, her skin glowing soft gold. "For the first time in 300 years, I am truly happy." They stood together, looking at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. Two beings from different worlds, connected by fate and choice. They had faced opposition, doubt, and danger, but they had survived because they refused to accept that love and duty had to be enemies. Thought about his ancestor, about a man who had given an alien shelter and kindness without expecting anything in return. That simple act of compassion had rippled through time, changing everything. "What are you thinking?" asked. "I am thinking that humans might be young and weak compared to most species," said, "but we have something that matters more than strength. We have the courage to care, the willingness to adapt, the audacity to love what we should fear." He smiled. "Maybe that is why humanity will survive, not because we are strong, but because we refuse to let fear decide our future." Kissed him, and her crystalline lips were surprisingly warm. "Then let us build that future together," she said. And in the mountains where it all began, under stars that had watched both their species evolve, a human and an alien queen stood hand in hand, proving that the galaxy was bigger and stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined.